Hello, welcome to the It's All Good show. Lucas here for a chat. My name is Denise Belisle, and I'm a serenity expert and positive intelligence specialist. Today, my guest is Lisa Marie Robinson, and I'll talk to you a little bit about her. But first, I will start talking about why I call this show It's All Good. Mainly, it's because of my favorite cup. It says It's All Good. I know it's backward, but it's all good. And but when I chose the title of this show, I was wondering how should I call it? And then I was drinking out of my cup and I said, yeah, that's my life. That's how I live my life. And why is that? Is because whatever happened right now, like let's say something bad just happened or something stressful or whatever that is, then it's already part of the past because I can't change it. 5 seconds ago, 5 minutes ago, 5 years ago, 5 decades ago, you can't change things that are in the past. So my philosophy is saying, well, it's all good. I can't change it. And then I look at the future and I can't predict the future as much as, we buy lottery tickets and then we say, oh, we wish we could win, but we don't know. It's just the future is unpredictable. So now when I think of things that might be worrying me in the future, I say it's all good because the future is the future and I can't predict it. And I have to live at right now, enjoy today, enjoy this episode, and come with us for exploration. So as I say, my guest today is Lisa Robinson, and she's a wealth coach. So we'll talk about money and how to be happy with how you're making money and how to make more, perhaps. So let's find out with Lisa. So let's welcome Lisa to the floor. So Lisa, welcome to the show. So good to
Hi.
have you here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. It's nice to have you. So Lisa, tell us a little bit about you and what's a wealth coach. It's a bit, self-defining, but I think you have a different ways of seeing that. And
hmm
so tell me how you got to become a wealth coach. So tell me a little bit about your story. The floor is yours.
Well, my name is Lisa. I in the business world, I normally go by Lisa Marie, but my full name is Lisa Marie Robinson. I'm a mom of two girls, and they're both neurodivergent. And wealth coach is it's a money coach in a sense. It is a money coach. I use the word wealth coach though, because just because you have a lot of money doesn't mean you're happy. And to me, being wealthy means you have the freedom and you're living the lifestyle you want. And it's not necessarily that you're rich, but you're abundance. You have a lot of abundance. You're wealthy in your lifestyle. You're doing what you love. You're able to give back and all of
Yeah.
those things. I I specifically focus on wealth creation, wealth retention, and wealth
Yeah.
expansion. And the reason why I do that is because I think it's important for us as women to not only create the wealth, but retain it and expand, because then we're able to help so many other people. How I got into it, it kind of just, it's really cool that we're doing this now. 7 years ago, as of September the 29th, I was let go from my job.
Mm.
And this is during this period 7 years ago that I was making the decision that I was not going to go look for
Yeah.
another one.
It's a big decision to make.
And that I was going, it was. Uh, and in that process of making that decision, I had to make some other hard decisions. One of them was to have my vehicle repossessed because I didn't have a lot of money. I didn't have hardly any. I was already barely making ends meet, and I had everybody and anybody telling me that I needed to go find another job. But I was done with all the migraines, with all the tension headache. I was done working 60 hours a week and not seeing my kids.
Yeah.
I basically decided that if I was going to barely make ends meet, that I was going to do it on
Yeah.
my terms. Um, so October 17th of this year will be 7 years I've had my business.
Awesome.
And when I had my vehicle repossessed, I had to also ask my landlord to prorate my
Mm-hmm.
rent So I had to send her a plan, ask her to prorate, cannot talk, my rent till April of the following year when I got taxes. I tell everybody every time I tell that story that if some God, the universe, wouldn't have told her to do it, we wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation.
So happy
But
anniversary.
thank you. I'm excited. 7. I'm really excited. And then I did the hard thing, and I went to the state and got put on food stamps to make sure my kids would be
Yeah,
able to eat. And I started my business, and it evolved. Again, at the time, I never would have imagined I'd be doing what I'm
yeah.
doing. But I started realizing that I was still struggling with the money and the issues. And someone said something online, and they were like, it was a money mindset coach, and it said, um, if someone talked bad about you and hated you and couldn't stand you, would you stick around?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was like, hell no, 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 no. And then her response was, then why would money?
Mm-hmm.
And it was a light
Yeah,
bulb. It was just a huge aha moment for me. And that just, I started digging. I started looking at the money mindset, the money stories, my relationship with money, and it evolved. And in that, I was like, I'm not the only one. I can't be the only one. And I just realized that money mindset was only one part of the piece. The other part of the puzzle was money
mm-hmm.
management. And the issue is there's a gap. And I believe they go
Yeah,
hand in hand. And once I was able to, I could see that and I started using that, I started helping other people. And I took, with my business, I went from food stamps to 6 figures in 3 years.
that's
And
fantastic.
it'll be 7 years.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome.
I still want to pinch myself sometimes that, you know, um, people say, yeah, but it's hard.
Well, I
It
mean,
is. It is
like
hard.
money doesn't fall on your lap. Like people that
Mm-mm.
are, it's very rare that people that are rich on this planet, they just sat down and money fell on their lap, right? Like unless you're born
Right.
into money and then you don't have to do anything and then you just receive and that's different. But that's a tiny minority, right? And
Right. Right. But our society and some of our upbringing make us think that if we're not born into money or we don't marry into money, we'll never
which
have
is not
money.
true.
I'm more However, that is one of the money beliefs
Yeah.
I had because I had been taught that for so long, or told that for so long, or heard it for so long. And it's not, it's simply just not true. And we have to be, as adults, we have to be able to realize where our money beliefs come from. Then we have to acknowledge it, right? Once we figure out where they come from, we have to acknowledge it, and then we have to be willing to rewrite the script. We have to be willing to turn the page and start a new
Yeah.
chapter. And I, of course, was way willing to do that. um, and now I have an awesome relationship with money. You
Mm-hmm.
know, uh, I tell people all the time, manifestation works only if you put action behind it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you have to have action manifestation, but you also have to have a really good mindset with money and a relationship with money. And then you have to have good money management. It goes hand in
Mm-hmm.
hand. Um, and, doing that prepares you to be able to handle the things that happen when life happens, right? My favorite saying is life happens and sometimes she's a bitch.
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course. I mean, as I was
And
saying,
and we're
right,
and we're not
we can't predict.
right, and we're not going to expect it. You cannot predict it. If we could, we would
Yeah,
avoid it. Trust
yeah,
me on that. But like you said, you can't predict it. However, you can
yeah,
prepare for the things that you want in the
yeah.
future. You can
I
prepare
agree.
for those different types of things. And you can prepare for it without worrying
Yes.
about it so extreme that it's
Well,
taking
it's
over
like
you.
what I
It
found,
is
like when we talk about preparation, whether it's for money, having a little bit of a nest eggs, just in case something happened, or prepare for your retirement, or prepare for when we talk about money. But when you prepare, like let's say for life situation also, it's like doing fire drill. Like there's no fire. But if you've practiced it long enough, you know, your mindset, if you see, okay, if that ever happened, not that I want it to happen, but then I know I know my plan. I know what it's going to happen. So if one of my kids would get really sick and I have to spend more money at the hospital or whatever, then you're prepared. You have a contingency plan for that. So, and that's what I think you're
Mm-hmm.
teaching your clients, right? How to prepare to make
Yeah,
them
yeah.
ready for the unexpected.
Well, and it's not only to prepare for anything that happens, but for example, I live in Columbia, South Carolina, in the United States, and our state charges property tax on everything,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
literally everything. Whether it's a vehicle, a boat, whatever, there's property tax there. So, and we have to pay it every year. So on my vehicle, I have property tax I have to pay every year.
Just like a house. Mm-mm.
Mm-hmm. And so I have an account that's called vehicle savings, and I've estimated about how much my tires are going to cost because I did the research on the size. And then I know how much my property tax is going to be on it every year. I know when it's due. And then I estimate the oil change, I estimate this. And I basically divide that by a number, like how often would I replace my tires? I know I'm going to have to pay the property tax every single year. So that would be divided by 12. And whatever number I come up with, so like if I replace my tires every 2 years or every 3 years, I would divide that by however many months, right? So then I add that up, and that's what I'm putting into that tax savings account every single month. And it's nicknamed vehicle savings. And the reason why is because it tells my brain, nope, that's not for buying clothes. That's for the vehicle. And now when my property tax was due of $1,500 and something odd dollars for my vehicle, it didn't mess with my cash flow. It didn't mess with my budget. I just went and paid it on the credit card and then moved the money out of that savings account and paid that to the credit card. So it basically zeroed it out. And now I'm still putting money in there for the next thing, for next year and for the tires. And the cool thing is you estimate emergency type thing in there. And when I had to spend $1,700 to have something replaced, that part of my warranty covered, and then the another part didn't. I had the money and I didn't freak out over it. So it's just it's I don't say have quote unquote an emergency fund. I say be very specific, because then you're allocating your money exactly where you want it to go. And when we put a general emergency fund, sometimes what we think is an emergency may not be technically one, and then we end up using it. So like for healthcare, I actually have a savings account that is for healthcare, meaning doctor visits, emergency room visits, prescriptions, whatever. That's what goes in there, and it's just for that. So that if there is an emergency, it's there. I have one that's called Fur Babies for my dogs, because emergency vet visits are not cheap.
No, for sure. So what I understand from that, there used to be like the envelope system, right? Like
Except it's
people
digital.
would put, like they would have their paycheck, they would cash their paycheck, and they would put $20 here, $20 there, $30 there, $40 there, $50 there. And then whatever is left in their hand, where they're spending money for the rest of the week.
I have an account that's called spending, and that's everything goes into it. So that way, if I don't use it, it doesn't disappear. It's there. But yes, it's basically
the digital envelope system.
It's a digital envelope system, and it's also a combination of that and what we call zero budgeting, which is where we allocate every single dollar. So I use a combination of the two in my budgeting system because that's what works.
Do you want to elaborate on zero budgeting?
It's called zero budgeting. So what it means is what they say is basically you allocate, like if you get paid $5,000, you literally allocate every single penny to something, whether it's a savings account, whether it's food, whatever, but you allocate and you get it down to zero. I use the combination of that and the envelope system. and I allocate the money. I don't allocate it, quote unquote, my account down to zero. I allocate it down to where there's like minimum of 350, maybe 400
Yeah.
in the account, sometimes a little bit less, but there's always something in there just in case. But I kind of consider that the zero because I know that's my little
Yeah. Yeah.
buffer. Um, but yeah, so I use a combination of the two. And I tell people all the time, just because that works for me, it may not work for you. Although I think the digital envelope system, as we call it, or digital buckets, literally is like the best thing, because you can go to Capital One, 360. I know that's in the US. I'm sure there's a one in the other countries that you can use that are just basically free savings
Okay.
accounts, and you can open up as many as you want. And they don't charge you for it. And people are like, oh, but it's a low interest rate. I'm not doing it to gain
Yeah. Yeah.
interest on it. I'm doing it as
Yeah.
a holding
And then
account.
there's no fee for you to transfer money from one to the other. So that's perfect.
As long as you have to go into Capital One and do the
Yeah.
transfer. So you would sync your external account to it. But no,
That's
there's no fee.
perfect.
Lord knows I'd be charged. I'm transferring money in and out of
Yeah. Yeah.
it.
You do it all the time. Yeah.
I mean yeah, there's no fee. And the cool thing about it, and the reason why I like it, is because a lot of times us, as humans, if your savings account's attached to the bank that you bank with, you have easier access to it. So a lot of times we'll go, oh, I just need it, so I'm going to move it and I'll put it back, but then we never put it back. Whereas when it's attached to a bank that's not like in the same bank account or the same bank, so like Capital One, it takes they say 2 to 3 business days for it to
Mm-hmm.
transfer. I've noticed, depending on the time of day, is 24 to
Yeah.
48 hours. So
So
but again, it takes longer than a split second for it to be moved for you to use
that's a
it.
good thing, because then that reduces the impulse spending, right?
Right,
You know that you can't
right.
use it because you can't have it in your hand right away, which is a good thing.
Yeah, yeah. And I have a Capital One credit card, and people are like, oh, that gets you in trouble. Like, no, I go to the Capital One account that I'm wanting to do something with. And if there's no money in there, I can't use it. Or if I know money is going to hit, then I laugh. It's a book that says,
Oh, show me. Yeah,
I'll
show
just show
me.
you so everybody can laugh. Uh, where's it at? It's a little pink book because I'm into hot pink. And it says, my list of bodies I buried in the woods.
My list of what?
So my list of bodies,
Bodies.
I buried in the woods.
Yeah.
But when people see that, they're like, so they're not going to look at it. But all that's in here is like different trips that
Yeah.
I've done, right? So like bowling trips. And if I go on a bowling trip, then I go and write all the stuff down and say, okay, that's how much I have to move out of my bowling account to put on the
Yeah.
credit
Yeah.
card. And so I keep up with it. And then once I've done it, I put check marks. And then I just do it for, like, I'm going on another business trip this week. And I just went on last week. And so I just listed it and then checked it off on, that I put it in there. I make a joke, though, that, this keeps people from looking
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
stuff.
For sure.
Because they're like, oh, I don't want to be added to the, it's just a funny
Yeah.
joke.
Absolutely. But it's
But I liked it because it was hot pink. But it's just, it's my accountability
Yeah.
system. Because, how often we get in trouble or we'll forget. And then we're like, oh, crap, why is this credit card so high? Well, it's because, like, for example, this last business trip, I had $875, including the flight, that was on a credit card. So when I got back, I added all of that up. And I was like, okay, I need to move that from my biz conference. For my business, I have what's called a trip/conferences account. And so I moved that from that account and paid it to the credit card. And it's off the credit card. I do the same thing in my business and in my personal, except I use business banking accounts with my actual local bank. And I have money in all those accounts. And again, they're nicknamed for specific things like tax savings, business conferences, yearly expenses. And so again, because they're nicknamed, my brain knows those are for those specific things. And it just helps because then you don't have to worry, whether it's business or personal, how when something does come up or you forgot you had a yearly expense with like the hosting website, and all of a sudden that $300 is due, it doesn't really uh, your cash flow and your operating money because you already had planned for it, and you'd already been strategic and allocated money away
Mm-hmm.
for it.
So now that you've explained all that and show us how you do it, as an outsider, that seems so overwhelming,
Mm-hmm. It
right?
can
So
be, yeah.
how do someone get started? Because if someone was to get
I
started with 20 accounts and this and
Oh,
that,
no, no,
it's,
no, no,
it's
no, no, no,
too
no,
much,
no.
right? Like it's
No,
like
no,
I
no, no,
can't do
no.
that. I can't
No,
keep
no.
up. So how do you get people to get
When
started?
I work with my clients, and when I do and I've done other podcasts, I recommend you start off with two.
Okay.
Um, and I recommend you, for personal, I recommend you list out the different categories
Mhm.
that may apply to you. Like if you have a
Like
house,
groceries,
if you
utilities.
if you own a house for like the yearly
The
expenses.
tax
So like if
rent.
you own a house and you have maintenance
Yeah.
stuff, then that might be a category for you. If you have a vehicle, and which most of us do, and you're going to replace tires and have oil change, that would definitely be one. Normally, I tell my clients that to list out the categories and then which two would be your top
Mm-hmm.
two. So, like for me, my top two was I'd already had the Christmas savings. So my top two was the vehicle and the fur
Yeah.
babies. Or actually, I'm sorry, it was the vehicle and my girls. So I have one that's called my girls because both my girls at the time were in school. And if any mom knows, when they're growing, you could all of a sudden need
Mm-hmm.
shoes.
Shoes,
Or
clothes.
clothes. Like 1 minute pants were fitting, and the next minute they look like high waters or
Yeah.
capris. And so those were my first two. Then what I did is I estimated what I thought what I was figuring needed to go in there. And then I was realistic and said, okay, what can I start putting
Mm-hmm.
in there? Because that's the key. Just because you estimate, oh my goodness, I need to be putting 300 and something odd dollars into this vehicle savings account every month. If you can't put it in there, okay, you know what you need to work towards and what you want to work towards. Now, realistically, what could you start putting in there? And that, I tell my clients all the time, just start. With business, the first two would be tax savings, because I don't care where you live, you have to pay taxes to the man. He's going to come and get it one way or the other. So you might as well go ahead and put the money
Yeah.
aside so that you're not spending it. And then a yearly savings, because majority of us business owners have yearly expenses, again, no matter where we're
Mm-hmm.
at. Those are the two that I would say to
Yeah.
start with. Those are the two I always start with on my clients with a
I think the
business.
first, like what comes to mind also as you explain all that, I think the first things to do, and you'll say yes, of course, I'm sure, is to look at the past years and the expenses and make a list, right? Of where did
Well,
the money go in the last year or two?
mhm. If you're looking at your monthly, I tell my clients to do what I call a deep dive into your
Mm-hmm.
expenses. I call it a checkup per se. I still do one every 90 days. So I'll go in and I'll look and say, okay, every quarter I look and I say, this is where, look at my bank statements, my credit card statements. Am I spending the money where I've got it saying I'm allocating it and budgeting it for? Has anything gone up? Has anything decreased? Making sure that it's good. But when you're first starting, 3 to 6 months, I say to go back and actually look and see where you're spending, especially in your business or even personal, actually, because a lot of times that's where we can find money leaks, where we'll find memberships that we
That we
forgot
don't use,
we even
or yeah.
had, memberships we don't use, and you're like, oh my God, I'm paying $15 a month and 6 months to a year. Okay, cancel it.
Like the
If you
gym.
haven't touched it in almost a year, cancel it.
Yeah.
Because again, that's $16 times 12 that you can put somewhere else.
Yeah,
Um,
that goes in the Christmas fund or whatever,
mhm,
right? I
right,
mean,
exactly. And so it's being honest and strategic, and it's also like those one-off expenses, looking at your gas, looking at your groceries, looking at how much you're spending out to eat. I have clients all the time go, oh, I don't spend that much amount out to eat. I'm like, okay, go back 4 months and come back and let me know. And they're like, holy crap. I didn't realize I was spending that much. Of course not.
I spent $2,000,
We went to credit card and debit cards, and all we got to do is swipe or now tap, and we're on our way. You don't realize how much you're spending. I said, and I don't have you do that. I don't say do that, and I don't have my clients do that to be restrictive. I want you to be aware.
Yeah.
Because when we have knowledge, we have power. We have the
absolutely.
power to choose. So the first thing I'll ask is, okay, if you're spending $600 a month going out to eat, are you okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you want? And if you say yes, no judgment, great. You're aligned with your goals and your core values of where you want that money to go. That's what goes in the budget. Majority of the time, my clients come and tell me no, or other people will tell me no. No, I don't want to spend that much
like
money.
$50 here, $50 there, $75 there, bottle of wine. Oh my goodness, that goes up quickly.
So if that's out of alignment with your goals and values, which is really important, if it's out of alignment, then okay, what would be in alignment? And whatever that amount is, that's what you're going to put in the budget. That's what you would create. What I have an out to eat spending account, again, a savings account. So now my girls don't ask me if we have money to go out to eat. They say, Mommy, is there enough money in the out to eat spending account? It solved my problem.
How old are your daughters?
They are now 12 and 20.
So
my 20-year-old is on the spectrum.
Okay, yeah. So have you taught them to start using this system as soon as,
I have been, it's a work in progress. The 12-year-old, she thinks that as soon as she gets her, her money that she's earned, it's hers to do with. I am teaching her how to put a little bit of money aside to save. It's kind of hard to, have a 12-year-old can't have multiple accounts.
Yeah.
With my 20-year-old, she's on the spectrum.
Piggy banks,
With my 20-year-old, she's on the spectrum. I'm working with her doing it a little bit differently. I'm actually doing the old system of, the envelope and then having one savings account, so that she can actually physically see it and that kind of thing. So, but I'm working with her. I have to remember that cognitively, she's between the ages of 16 and 17. So some of the understanding is there, and she'll get frustrated if she decides to spend money. And I've told her, I said, look, it's a work in progress. So I tell my clients all the time, you're not going to be perfect at it when you first start. The key is to keep going and find what works for you. I know this can work because we can start where you're at, and you can start where you're at, so you're not overwhelmed, going, a lot of the gurus will go, oh, no, you just need to open up all the accounts at one time. Oh, dear God, no.
That sounds so
every time someone comes to me they're overwhelmed, they've not done anything with it, and they still have no idea what's going on with their money.
Of course.
And I think it's important for us to have a good relationship with our money. And the only way we can have a good relationship with our money is to know what's going on with our money. What are we doing with it? How are we treating it? Are we letting it disappear down the drain? Are we being strategic with it and planning things with it? And a lot of that, of how you look at the money and how you treat it and how you manage it, is going to go back to those money beliefs, those money stories. So I tell everybody, if you've got a block from doing that, then my advice is to work on that money mindset and figure out the money story and start working there. And you can do both at the same time, but you've got to be able to see what your current money beliefs are and be able to, flip those.
So let's go back to the beginning, because a lot of people would say, like, they listen to this show and they say, well, I don't even have any money to save, right? So 7 years ago, you were in that situation. And so how someone that thinks that I don't even have any money to save, I don't even have money to pay all my bills, So how would someone like that, just to change their mindset, but how do they get started? Like, what's the minimum that they can do?
Well, you're going to laugh at me, but it's to first say thank you every time you pay a
Mm-hmm.
bill. You've got to change your relationship with money no matter how much
Yeah.
you have. Um, I started saying thank you every single time I was able to pay a
Yeah.
bill. And gradually, I was able to pay all the bills no problem. The first accounts I had open, I was putting $5 a month. And the reason why I had the $5 a month is because I went and looked at my bills and said, what can I temporarily do without?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I may not have liked asking that, but the question was, what can I temporarily
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
without? And temporarily, I could do without this, this,
Yeah.
and this. And I did it. I made those decisions. And, if that meant less going out to eat, okay. If that meant less
Yeah.
this, okay. Um, I didn't have 2 dogs when I
Yeah. Yeah.
started, so I didn't have to worry about feeding 2
Yeah.
dogs. But looking at the things, a lot of times there is money that we don't realize we have that we're spending in places we don't realize we're
Mm-hmm. Like,
spending.
if you go, like, grocery, for example, if you go to the
Mhm.
high-end grocery stores that charge 3 times too much
Or
for your,
or you go to a grocery store when you're
yeah.
hungry, or you go to the grocery store without a
Yeah.
list. So I have found that if I go without a list or if I go hungry, I spend more. If I go without the intentions of what I'm going to cook that week, or I used to go every 2 weeks. I found that when I go every 2 weeks, I spend more money. So now I've made it to where I go every single week.
And you plan your
I
week.
planned I planned for that week of what I'm going to fix, and I have a grocery list. And if it's not on the list, I don't
Mm-hmm.
buy it. And being able to do that has reduced my
Yeah.
grocery bill. Now I have another friend who's like, I can't control myself if I go into a grocery store. So what we did for her is she does the same thing once a week. She has it goes on the app. She puts her stuff in the thing, and they go and do it, and she just goes and picks it up. And again, there's no impulse because she's only
She's
getting on one
not
list.
in
And
the store. Yeah.
when she started doing that, her grocery bill was cut almost in
Yeah,
half.
because she only bought what she needed. And I like
Only bought what she needed and planned for the
and I like
meals.
buying once
Um,
a week, because that also
mhm,
does less waste, right? Because sometimes we
mhm.
buy things, we say, "Oh, I'll use that. I might use that," and then 2, 3 weeks later, it's still in the fridge and it goes bad, and then you throw it away. So how much money are we throwing in the garbage or the recycle, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And that's the reason why I suggest, okay, first, some of the questions I'll ask: how often are you going to the
Mm-hmm.
grocery store? How often are you going to the grocery store and ordering DoorDash? Nothing against DoorDash, but how often are you
Yeah,
doing both? And they'll go, oh, well, I try to go to the grocery store, but then I get so tired, so I end up ordering DoorDash. Okay, well, then if DoorDash has help, and one lady is like, and I can get healthy DoorDash meals. Okay, then stop buying so much stuff at the grocery
exactly.
store.
Compensate, right?
Oh, because it's going bad, right? And she's like, yeah, okay, well, then whatever be realistic, be honest with yourself. If you're going to put the money, you're going to do DoorDash, then take that money that just went down the drain anyway because it went bad, and instead put it
For ordering
somewhere
food.
else.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're already ordering the food, you see what I'm
Yeah.
saying, and you're
Yeah. Yeah.
over, that's how you can work the budget. Now, are there some people, are is it realistic to say all of us have several $100s that are hiding? No. But a lot of us do have money, whether it's 25, 30, or $50 a month, that is being spent somewhere that we're not using or utilizing, that we could pull back
Mhm.
on
Mhm.
temporarily, and then we could allocate it to what we
Yeah.
really want. The biggest thing is to make sure the spending is aligned with your
Yeah.
goals. And if that means, okay, I have one client, she was working 2 jobs, and we were able to cut back some of our expenses, and that second job started being put money in savings, and we started very low, and then we built, and now she's going to be to the point to where she can get rid of that job and she can start her side business, to where eventually she'll be able to do her own business. I'm gonna be honest, y'all, the reason why I was able to just go full in is because I was let go from my job, and it was do it now or it won't ever happen. Because working full time and taking care of 2 kids who have learning differences and special needs, there wasn't a lot of
Yeah.
time left. And I believe that the universe and God had a hand in that, because I was needed at home. However, I also believe that if we are realistic with ourselves or honest with ourselves, there's money that we're throwing away somewhere, whether it's $5 a month, that we could actually allocate into a savings. And you think about it, if you decide you're going to put $5 into a savings account for your vehicle, and you've got a pretty decent vehicle, by the end of the year, you're going to have a good chunk of money in there. And gradually you're going to be, oh, you know
You
what?
want to
I've got
put
an
more.
extra.
Yeah.
And you're going to put more in there. It's
Yeah.
contagious,
Yeah.
honestly. Key is to nickname it whatever you decide, nickname it so that's what it shows when you log in, because again, it tells your brain over and over again that's what it's
Wonderful.
for.
So I imagine right now that if this was an open phone line, you would have a lot of questions. So now let's talk about how can people reach you. So they can go on your website, and
Yes.
there's lots of
You can go,
places to.
there's a lot. Yep. There's contact me. There's lots of freebies on there. And then there's also, you can find me on Facebook, um, the Sassy Wealth Coach. So if you search that, you can find me there. You can also find me on Instagram.
All the social media
Same as
and
the
everything.
Sassy Wealth Coach. Yep. All the social media is the Sassy Wealth Coach. So all you have to do is research it or
Wonderful.
put in the
And you
search,
have a
and I'll come
gift
up.
also for people.
Yes, it's 6 steps to sassy and sexy business numbers, and you can get that by going to the website, and you'll see that on the front page.
Wonderful. So make sure you opt in for that gift, because at the website, thesassywealthcoach.com, and you'll find a whole bunch of goodies in there, and how to reach Lisa Marie and book an appointment. Are you offering like a consultation, like a?
Yeah, I have. I do offer a consultation for those who I have one-off coaching sessions, and then if someone's interested in one of the programs, then I offer a free consult
Okay.
for us to talk. It's a 20-minute consult.
Wonderful, wonderful. And so give me one last tips before we go. What one tip?
The biggest tip: give yourself grace.
Mm.
Beating yourself up, um, kind of like what you said. You can't do anything about the past. Is actually exactly
Yeah.
what you said. You can't do anything about the past, and you can't predict the future. However, you can do something
You can
about
give
now.
yourself a hug and say, hey, and
Mhm.
have self-compassion. I think self-compassion is down the garbage nowadays, right? It's
Well,
hard
and,
right
and and
now.
when I say give yourself grace, I mean the self compassion, because you know what? If you made previous money mistakes, guess what? You're not alone. I
Yeah.
promise. I've made them several times over. And if you go to my About Me page, part of my story is there
Yeah.
about some of those
Yeah.
mistakes. Um, and the biggest thing is saying, okay, I made these mistakes, but I can do something about
Yeah.
now, and just taking, it's kind of like fitness. I compare it to fitness. You don't change overnight your lifestyle. You do baby steps for it to become sustainable, right? Because we all know those big, huge crash diets are exactly that. They're called crash diets for a reason, because you crash. Okay. Being overly restrictive with your money management plan is the exact same thing. You don't want to crash. So I tell people, start with small baby steps and do that baby step over and over again. And then it builds momentum. I didn't get here overnight. It took 7 years. It was 7 years in the making to have all the accounts I have. I did not start off with 15 savings
Absolutely.
accounts.
Absolutely. And I think I think like giving ourselves some grace, just like you say, just say, hey, it's been hard and it is hard, but I can do it. I'm I
And I
can
can do it.
do it.
And I
I'm in
can
the
do it. Yeah.
process of, like I don't like
Mhm.
the trying, I'm in the process
Mm-mm.
of building my new life. And every day when I get a
I
bill, I'm thanking it, and I'm thanking the fact that I'm paying it, even if it's just partially, because at least I can pay it partially. I'm so grateful.
I I say
I,
thank you every single time I pay
yeah,
something, um, because that I'm telling the universe, thank you for having the money to
yeah.
pay it. And then even people don't realize it, but when you say thank you, you're changing
Your
your.
brainwave.
It's actually kind of like cognitive therapy, okay? For uh, people go in there for
Yeah,
anxiety, and like my children do cognitive therapy. But you're retraining your brain. You're retraining your brain on how to
yeah.
think about money and how to look at money. And just, if you're ready, just give yourself grace and one step at a time, and just take those baby steps. Those baby steps is what's going to lead to
And go to
success.
the sassywealthcoach.com and find ways to reach out for Lisa Marie and book a call with
Yeah.
her and get her to help you, support you, show you the way to get started, to have also a life of abundance.
Yes, that's, if we can't have an a life of abundance, then what's the point?
Wonderful.
I mean, the big thing is to be
Well, thank you
happy.
so much, Lisa Marie. It was such a
Thank
pleasure
you.
to have you on the show. And
Thank you
all
for
the
having me.
details about how to reach you will be in the show note, people. So just look there, and it was on the screen, but you can check that out there. So just stay there in the background, Lisa. I'll be right back with you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you learned something. I hope she gave you little tidbits of information on how to become more wealthy, but also abundance, because it's two different things. You can be wealthy and don't have any abundance because all the money goes places that you don't know where they go. So I also have a gift for you. So if you're interested to have, oh, that's the wrong gift. Well, my gift, not her gift. We showed that already. So I have a checklist, which is starting over a checklist. I've been working with empty nesters that when the kids leave the house, they either go to college and then they leave, they move another state, or they just move out, like they grown up and they move out or they get married, and you feel that the house is a little bit empty and you don't know how to deal with that situation. But I invite you to go to bit.ly starting over checklist and go download. And if you love the show, there's a lot more on my YouTube channel. And so you can go to youtube.com/ at Denise Belisle, and all my other videos are there. You click on videos and you'll see all my previous videos. Or if you want to be on the show, I would love to hear from you. So you can book a call with me at tiny.cc/talk with Denise. Or if you have any question about coaching, you would like to have a consultation with me, don't hesitate to contact me. I'll be happy to talk with you. So until next time, be kind to one another, and I'll welcome you to show up next week for my next episode. Take care. Have a great week.